Famous British people who passed away in 1927. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Sir Charles Warren. He was born in February 1840 and he died in January 1927. His age was 86 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was pneumonia. He was an officer in the British Royal Engineers. He was one of the earliest European archaeologists of biblical Holy Land, and particularly of the Temple Mount. Much of his military service was spent in British South Africa. Previously, he was Commissioner of Police of the Metropolis, the head of London Metropolitan Police from 1886 to 1888 during the Jack the Ripper murders. Sir Edward Marshall Hall. He was born in September 1858 and he died in February 1927. His age was 68 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English barrister who had formidable reputation as an orator. He successfully defended many people accused of notorious murders and became known as the Great Defender. Marshall Hall practiced as a barrister in the late Victorian and Edwardian eras, when the public took a great interest in the sensational court cases of the day. Mark Judge. He was born in February 1847 and he died in January 1927. His age was 79 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British architect and sanitary engineer who was notable for his fight to reform Metropolitan Board of Works in London in the 1880s. In later life, Judge took up some other causes, including the expansion of higher education. In 1905, he established the British Constitutional Association, which organized lecture meetings on broadly socially progressive topics. Sir Luke Fildes. He was born in October 1843 and he died in February 1927. His age was 83 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British painter and illustrator, born in Liverpool and trained in the South Kensington and Royal Academy schools. He was the grandson of political activist Mary Fildes. Fildes' illustrations were the black and white style popular in France and Germany during the era. He worked in a social realist style compatible with the editorial direction of the graphic and focused on images depicting the destitute of London. J.G. Parry Thomas. He was born in April 1884 and he died in March 1927. His age was 42 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was a racing accident. He was a Welsh engineer and motor racing driver who at one time held the land speed record. He was the first driver to be killed in pursuit of the land speed record in partnership with another engineer, Major Kenneth Thompson, from New Zealand. He started Thompson Inventions Development Corporation, based inside the Brooklands circuit itself. After his death, this company became Thompson and Taylor and went on to build such cars as Malcolm Campbell's Bluebird. Marie Spartalis Tillman. She was born in March 1844 and she died in March 1927. Her age was 82 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a British member of the second generation of Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Of the Pre-Raphaelites, she had one of the longest-running careers, spanning 60 years and producing over 150 works, including Love's Messenger and numerous romantic scenes from the Divine Comedy. Though her work with the Brotherhood began as a favorite model, she soon trained and became a respected painter, earning praise from Dante Gabriel Rossetti and others. Sam Musabini. He was born in August 1867 and he died in March 1927. His age was 59 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English athletics coach, best known for his work with Harold Abrahams. In total, he led athletics to 11 medals over 5 Olympic Games. However, in an era where amateurism was praised, he was not officially recognized because he was a professional coach. He played billiards to a high standard and reported on matches as a sports journalist during the winter months. In 1904, he wrote a 2-volume book on the technicalities of billiards. He was also one of the top billiard referees. Sir Henry Craig, 1st Baronet. He was born in October 1846 and he died in March 1927. His age was 80 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Scottish Unionist politician. He was appointed as a junior examiner of the Committee of Council on Education in 1871 and promoted in 1878 to the position of senior examiner until 1885. He was an elected member of Parliament for Glasgow and Aberdeen universities from 1906 to 1918 and for the combined Scottish University from 1918 until his death in 1927. Philip Wicksteed. He was born in October 1844 and he died in March 1927. His age was 82 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English scholar and Unitarian theologian known for his contributions to classics, medieval studies, and economics. He was also at George's and literary critic. His theoretical and ethical writings continued long after he left the pulpit in 1897 and appear to have been a starting point for many of his other fields of scholarly inquiry. Mabel Collins. She was born in September 1851 and she died in March 1927. Her age was 75 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a British anti-vivisectionist, oculist, and author over 46 books. She was an important figure in the Theosophical Society during the latter part of the 19th century, but became critical of Helena Blavatsky and Theosophy after being expelled from the society. Arthur Reed Lampier. He was born in August 1835 and he died in April 1927. His age was 91 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British Army officer of Royal Engineers, including of the Royal Engineers Columbia Detachment that founded British Columbia as the colony of British Columbia 1858 and 1866. He was in the third and the largest group of Royal Engineers to arrive in British Columbia in 1859. He served in the British Columbia until 1863. Lampier surveyed the route from the Hope to Layton through the Coquihalla River in 1859. Ernest Charling. He was born in April 1866 and he died in May 1927. His age was 61 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer. He was a British physiologist who contributed many fundamental ideas to this subject. His ideas were important parts of the British contributions to physiology, which at that time led the world. He revolutionized understanding of circulatory physiology and hormones. Henry Lowry Curry. He was born in June 1845 and he died in May 1927. His age was 81 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British Army officer and conservative politician who advocated for better land rights and reform in Ireland. He entered the British House of Commons in 1873, sitting as a member of Parliament for the county Tyrone. Until 1880, he was a deputy lieutenant of the Suffolk and represented it also as a justice of the peace. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.